AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show. One of the greater songwriters you'll ever find on this planet, one of the most important musical people the state's ever produced, and a man who's got actually a media legacy, which is pretty outstanding. Paul Metsa is kind enough to join us. Walla Power Radio Hour airs 6 to 7 p.m. on Saturday, and he is kind enough to join us today from the palatial confines of your place up in Duluth, right?
That's where I'm coming from. Let me know what my vocal feed is. Should I turn?
No, you sound
down my mic on this end?
you sound pretty good there, my friend.
Okay, good. How do I look?
Oh my God, you're better than me, for God's sakes. I keep looking at myself. What the hell happened there? I had the opportunity last week, on Friday last week, to swing on by and say hi, man. It was nice to see your place.
Yeah, and I'm not too far from anywhere you come when you come visit your daughter at UMD. So you're welcome anytime, of course.
Well, dude, you're right up the street from the Duluth Grill. I mean, This is a no-brainer, man. I'll meet you over at the Duluth Grill. We'll just sit there and trust me, there are plenty of things on that menu. I'll be entertained all the time.
Have you ever been to OMC?
No.
OMC is owned by the same guy, Tom Hansen, and one of the best barbecue places in the Twin Ports. He's got about 4 joints. Everyone is great.
Okay. All right. OMC, where is that? In Duluth or Superior?
It's in Duluth, right on Superior Street.
On Superior Street, beautiful. All right, I'm okay. No, Duluth has become a shockingly good food town, and it is. And it that was sneaky how that happened, because all of a sudden it's like every place I've gone up there. I went to Burger Paradox one time. That was great. That was just great. Very good.
Owned by the same guy,
is
Tom
it?
Hansen.
Well, I have been very impressed with the quality of food you can get in Duluth now. So it definitely gives you another reason to go up there.
Well, I don't mean to feel bad, Matt, but you know what I'm going to have for dinner tonight?
What's that, man? We got a pasty
from Paul's Market.
Oh man, now you're just being cruel. You're being cruel. Oh, Paul's Pasties in Eveleth. If you've not done there, I mean, they do it the old school Italian way up there, and they know how to do the crust, and it's just, that's just brilliant. The best pasty you can find on the range.
Absolutely. If not Minnesota.
If not the country. If not I mean, seriously, it's that good. It is absolutely outstanding. I'm not doing too bad because my kids are going to bring home for me from the fair Dimitri's, the gyros from Dimitri's over at the State Fair.
Oh, those are great.
Those are the ones by the carousel over by Fox 9. Yeah, they're bringing me one of those because I've only had like 9 of them this week.
Did you catch any music at the fair?
We caught, it was a great swing band was over at the DNR stage. And so here's the funny thing. Gina and I have been taking dance classes, and this band starts riffing off, and they were going great. And we just said, I looked at her and said, okay, we can't pass this up. And it was Red Rock Swing Band. Red Rock Swing Band was the band.
Cool.
And we went out there and we were dancing. It was great fun. Now, it was also that last Sunday where it was basically the air temperature of Savannah. And so we weren't going to be doing that for too long. But it was, a good big band that knows how to jam. That's old school, but it's so much fun.
Well, speaking of the Minnesota State Fair, of course, you were talking about my media legacy, but I've got a show on Saturday mornings on KDAL, 610 AM, 103.9 FM from 10 to noon. And I had a couple of weeks ago, I had Nate Duncan in, who's the leader of Trailer Trash, but he's also the music booker at the Minnesota State Fair.
Okay. We have to talk because I want him to bring a band so when I went down to New Orleans last November, Paul hooked me up with a friend of his down there, and she was fantastic. And she goes, go see Rory Danger and the Danger Dangers. They had an album release party over at Tipitina's. We went down there, caught that show. I am like, how is this band not huge? They're fantastic. Right. We've got to get Rory Danger and the Danger Dangers up to the Minnesota State Fair.
Well, Nate says he starts booking in October. Because I'm pushing to get my band, Cat, some of the stars there, because we will be celebrating our 50th anniversary
Outstanding.
next summer, 2025. We started in 1975 in Olcott Park in Virginia, Minnesota.
I know Olcott Park. Olcott Park used to have the best jungle gym equipment as a kid because it was all space, like spaceships and stuff, and it was lots of exposed bolts and nails. It was great fun.
Right across from the clinic.
Yeah, the Charles B. Lenant Clinic, which was my great-grandfather's medical clinic up there. Yeah. Where would you play? Would you play Leinenkugel stage, or where? I mean, obviously, I mean,
well, I'd like to think we're good enough to do the main stage, but really, the lining stage would work, as I'm a kind of longtime fan of Leinenkugels. You know, remember back then in the early 70s and then late 70s when we started playing the 400 bar. They had Leinenkugels, and that was kind of the big imported beer in Minneapolis was Leine's.
Okay. It was coming from way over in the Eau Claire region. Yeah. Well, it was, you know, okay. There is some element, I will say, that one of the things I think that is long gone from the Midwest, and something you saw on the range, you saw it everywhere from Nebraska up through Michigan, was the local beers. And granted, I mean, obviously the business model wasn't going to sustain it being so individual and unique, one guy with 6 kegs in his basement sort of thing. But, gosh, there used to be so many great small town beers across America that are long history. I'm kind of glad to a point Grain Belt's still around because that is, a bit of an institution here in the state. But yeah, I mean, there used to be so many, I've been to a few museums where it's stunning how every town had their own beer, and they were all pretty unique.
Well, now, Matt, you look at Duluth, and speaking of hometown beer, I was the first guy to play the Fitker's Brew House 30 years ago. And they were like one of the first in the state. Right around the corner from where I live now is you can get, oh, God, I'm spacing it out. It'll come to me, but there's a great beer in Superior, the Earth Rider beer. Mm-hmm. They've got a great Caribou Lake beer. I love a hoppy IPA. And this place that's right around the corner is really good too. It'll come for me. But there's a lot of good beer in the Twin Ports.
I'm grateful they haven't tried to do. No one's, at least I don't know of anyone that's tried to do this. It's funny when I try to see people that try to make wineries, and I'm like, okay, a Duluth wine sounds like the beginning of a 911 call. So I don't, stick with the beer, maybe a little bit of the hard spirits, but I think the wine. I don't think it's wine territory.
Oh, it's coming to me now. Bent Paddle.
Oh, yeah, there it is. I know that one, yeah.
And then they've got a beautiful stage indoor and a great stage outdoors. There's a really good band up here called Salty Dogs that play every Monday night. Yep. And but they probably have music in the summer 3 to 4 nights a week. So if you want beer, you want good live music, come to Duluth.
I asked the question whether or not earlier in the show you had ever written a song about the Minnesota State Fair. You've been to the Minnesota State Fair tons of times, correct?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. I remember in 1968, my grandpa Paul, that was my mother's dad. Her maiden name was Paul, of course. We went to the fair, and we went to it was like a little train caboose. And it said, experience an LSD trip. And so I walked in with Grandpa, and they had flashing lights. They had a joint and a needle behind glass. And Grandpa was never the same after that. But then in 1974, I went down once again with my grandparents who lived in Moore, Minnesota, and saw the Ramones which was kind of that sparked the Minnesota punk rock scene. Wow. All the guys in the Suicide Commandos and all the rest, everybody was out there. So I remember they came out. The bass player was wearing a tutu and bunny boots. There was a bunch of bikers at the front that were lighting paper airplanes on fire and throwing them to the stage. But that was a legendary rock and roll show at the Minnesota State Fair.
Where did they play? Which venue? Was it the main stage?
No, I think it was on the teen stage.
The teens, the Ramones played the teen stage.
Yep.
Wow. Did you ever see the frozen whale they had out there for a long time? There's a story in the Star Tribune about that.
No, was that the one that RFK Jr. cut the head off?
No.
And most of that.
Okay, now I'm fascinated by the idea there was an LSD trip booth at the Minnesota State Fair, and why did they ever get rid of it outside of it was probably the latest experience?
Because after the once the early 70s kept in, you didn't really need that because you kind of went there already psychologically prepared, if you know what I'm talking about.
You did write a song about the St. Louis County Fair, though, and you did send this to me. We're not going to be able to play it. I'll make sure I share it later on social media. But you did that. When did you write that song?
I wrote it in 1994, and I got some money from the IRRB, and we did a video for it. So the video that you can see, if you go to paulmetsa.com, see the video, or it's on YouTube. But we actually did it on the St. Louis County Fairgrounds in Hibbing. It was last year before they moved it to where the Minnesota Discovery Center is now.
And where is that's in Duluth?
Hibbing.
Oh, in Hibbing. Okay, the old Hibbing site.
Yep.
Okay. The St. Louis County Fair. I mean, obviously, I did a lot of fairs, and I've gone to a lot of county fairs in Iowa and Minnesota and stuff. I don't think I've ever been to the St. Louis County Fair.
It's a great fair. Great fair.
But did it have? Obviously, it's kind of a feeder system to our state fair, so there's always the cows and the chickens and all that stuff. But was there anything particular about that fair that was just outside of it? Was St. Louis County's own one?
Well, it was part of the racetrack, so that was the big thing at night. Was watch stock cars race. Very exciting.
I love the fact that the state fairgrounds now, you can go around on the outside of the grandstand, and then that history building they have, I think over where the old LSD thing used to be, they have the history of it and how that race cars, and of course they had Dan Patch that would run out there, and how that was just a huge deal. And then they brought the race cars in, and that was even a bigger deal, although apparently it must have just infuriated everyone in St. Paul that it was up there, by Falcon Heights, because that was I can't imagine how loud that was.
There was a writer that just moved to Minneapolis from New Orleans named Michael Tizaran. And you should have him on your show. A great writer. He's written about Zydeco and the history of New Orleans. Okay. And he posted an old post in the Minnesota State Fair from '63 that had Zaccarini, the human cannonball, and also basketball playing dogs. Okay. But it also had Buster Keaton and Jack Benny that same year.
Okay, so they were kind of later on in their careers at that point.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. But that would have been amazing.
Most of the bands you're seeing at the State Fair are kind of later on in their careers.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so I saw Rush there back when they came through in 2010, and that was their Time Machine tour. And so they played the entire Moving Pictures album, top to bottom, the beginning and the second half. Great show. And the guy came on out and he said, actually, we played the fair once before. They played it apparently as a young, 18, 19-year-old Canadian kids came down, played one of the stages there. I don't know if it was the teen stage or where, but they played the stage. And I contacted that guy that does their database, that does all their things, because I noticed I went and looked to see when this was. It wasn't in their list. It was the first time he'd ever heard. That was one of the first concerts ever by them in the United States. And so, it is amazing. You can still catch some of these bands. I mean, I remember when Dury was out there, Gully Boys has been out there. These other bands that are out there, that you can catch some really great bands on the upswing.
I saw Bob Dylan there in 1992.
Nice.
And it was one of those Dylan shows where it's like, what song is he playing now? And he took took a while to get his show together. But by the time he got to Song to Woody, which was the first original song he actually wrote that people knew about, it was transcendent.
Only State Fair memories, man. State Fair memories are good stuff. Let's take a break. You got a new song I want to talk about when we come on back, and we're going to play that song as well when we do come on back. Paul Metsa joining us once again. Wall of Power Radio Hour here, 6 to 7. He's up on KDAL in Duluth on the weekends as well. And, of course, still in an institution. Paul Metsa, paulmetsa.com?
Yeah.
PaulMetsa.com. You can go find the video for the St. Louis County Fair song, as well as all the stuff, including the song we're going to talk about here about this upcoming election. Paul Metsa, kind enough to join us today. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on your Friday. AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. An absolutely freaking outstanding week of interviews this week. And the cherry on top of my Sunday is Paul Metsa. Once again, Our Power Radio Hour on Saturday night, 6 to 7 p.m. And you, obviously, like all of us, are just a smidge concerned about this upcoming election. Talk about your latest song, Walking in a Woman's World, here, that you're putting out here. I shouldn't say you're putting it out with this election here. You're making sure this is getting out there.
Yeah, I actually wrote it in 1993 for my mother, and I debuted it on January 31st, 1994. Getting ready to leave Minneapolis, and I had a sold-out show with a 10-piece band at the old Guthrie Theater. Last time Mom saw me play, she passed away just a few months later, and it's called Walking in a Woman's World. And the last chorus goes, "A little girl on the playground dreams of growing up. Let her be a fireman, a princess, or a cop. Let her be what she wants to be. Let her not pretend. Let her be a king or queen or the next president." So it ended up on, we recorded it then. And then when Hillary was running in 2016, we got a little action with it. But then when Kamala took over from President Biden, salute them both, we thought now's the time to re-release it. So I hooked up with my good friend, Scott Harold, who runs Rock the Cause Records. They're in a great organization. I put on Ain't Gonna Whistle Dixie Anymore 4 years ago with Willie Walker, my answer to the Charlottesville Nazi March. So we put it out. It's for free. Any progressive people out there, any organization, any women, anybody that wants it can use it for free. I want to just put a little energy, musical energy, into this election.
Well, and you gave me a link page. I'm going to make sure I post this on all the social medias. If you want to get this song, you will be able to get it and listen to it. We're going to end the interview listening to it here in just a second. But Paul, God, man, I'm definitely doing another holiday interview with you coming up here. The holiday.
Oh, yeah.
We'll definitely do another hour of there. But God, man, I just love chatting with you because it's like I said, it's a great interview about really nothing, but it's the best interview of the freaking week, hands down, every single time.
Now, this show, is this airing in Chicago and Seattle?
Well, that 3:00 hour is going to be airing. It does air in the Chicago and Seattle markets here, but I'll make sure I link to the stations out there as well with this interview.
Yeah, because hello to my Chicago friends. I played the Harlem Avenue Lounge in Berwyn, and I used to play the Crocodile Cafe in Seattle years ago.
Beautiful. God, man. The stories, the best part
about
it. Paul Metsa, once again, the Wall of Power Radio Hour, 6 to 7 on Saturday nights, and the KDAL stuff up in Duluth, that's on Saturday mornings?
Yeah, and they can stream it, KDL610.com. Tomorrow night, I got a great show on the Wall of Power Radio Hour. We're featuring Kurt Nelson, a longtime Twin Cities musician. He's got throat cancer. He's not going to do any treatment. He's just riding it out. So we're playing his songs. Have a great interview with him. Just real solid member of the Minnesota music community.
Walking in a Woman's World. It's Paul Metsa. This takes us out today. Paul, thank you very much. Everyone out there,
Matt.
have a wonderful Labor Day weekend. We'll be back to you on Monday or on Tuesday rather. Until then, see ya.
See you, Matt. Thanks.
Stranger on Queens Boulevard asked her for a light. She said no, and he struck her down. As 38 looked on, now those 38 still hear her cry since Kitty has passed on. She ain't safe in a straight line. She ain't safe on a round. She ain't safe on an airplane. She ain't safe on the ground. Because my grandma was once just a girl. And I won't stop running till I'm walking in a woman's world. Karen came home from college with stories of where she's been. In this town 10 years ago, she was a homecoming queen. We won't hear those stories now or meet her boyfriend Dave. It was a short while.